Hello everyone, Amy R here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and super excited to be back again with another exclusive video for this Simon Says STAMPtember collaboration with Studio Katia. This is the Fresh Bunch stamp set. And I have some Strathmore watercolor paper here in my stamp platform. And I have one of the Studio Katia, this is the rectangle die from the Dotted Patterns Set 1, just to kind of give me a rough idea of where I want to place my stamp. So I have this gorgeous like fall cluster image here, and I am inking it up with Simon's clear embossing ink. I'm going to stamp it several times since I am stamping on the textured side of watercolor paper, so I want to make sure I get all of the detail and whatnot of this image stamped. So I just keep inking it up and pressing it onto my watercolor paper. And then I'm going to coat this with Simon's gold embossing powder. This is the antique gold embossing powder. Again, I was thinking like fall colors. I love the warmth of this embossing powder. So I poured that over, and then I'm going to melt this with my heat tool. And then off camera, I die cut this with that Dotted Patterns wafer die. So it die cuts it in a little rectangle and adds that little like piercing edge all the way around it. So I did my die cutting just to give me kind of a rough idea of where I wanted to pull the background color to, because I decided to paint the entire background. And you'll see in a couple of minutes here, the original one I had painted. I went with blue this time because I thought kind of the aqua colors would play nicely with the card base I'm going to create. That's going to have some browns. Plus, I love the color like aqua and turquoise colors with like golds and browns and whatnot. So I'm using my Altenew watercolors. And I'm just using my glass mat for this part of the coloring because I've already filled my little palette that's the lid of the Altenew watercolors, so I have no space left unless I decide to clean it off, but I was a little too lazy to do that. So I just kind of mixed up the first, I just used one of the, turquoise colors in the watercolors, and I just mixed it with water. And then for a second layer, I added a bit of gray to it and painted that around like directly right up to the images, and then kind of pulled that out with my water brush. And then all the actual images, I stuck with mostly fall-ish sort of colors. Really, you could totally use this kind of all year round, just depending on the colors you decide to use. But I wanted to use, reds and berry colors and whatnot. So I started with the apple and just did that, really bright red. And then I decided to use like berry colors on these. I'm not even sure what they are, if they're supposed to be, flowers or what. But I decided to color them a berry color because I just really liked that pop of color. And then green for the greenery, of course. And then there's like a sort of rose image in the center that I'm going to do with a really pretty kind of yellowy orange sort of color. And then these other florals, I decided to do kind of a peachy pink. I had that in my head that I had to do that. It just, to me, I'm like, this would just make such a gorgeous, flower cluster. And same with these little flowers that are kind of in the top, in the corners. To me, they look like pine cones. I know they're not, but I was like, these would look really cute. Like if there was like pine cones in this cluster. So I colored them brown because I just thought that would be cute. So did brown for those, did yellow for the flowers. All my watercoloring was very just kind of quick and simple since everything is heat embossed. All those edges are nice and raised, so I don't have to worry about edges, things blending into each other. I don't have to worry about areas drying. These watercolors are really easy to work with. They do reactivate really easily as well, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It kind of depends. I noticed how easily they reactivated because I went in and added some shimmer with, this is the Tonic Midas Touch aqua shimmer pen. So this one has gold shimmer. It's very subtle. I really like it, and I think it's going to be fun for fall cards. But I noticed these watercolors reactivated really easily with this. So I was just really careful when I applied the shimmer, and I would wipe off the shimmer brush in between colors so I don't end up mixing everything. But the shimmer, even in like natural daylight, you don't really see it until the light hits it, and then it just has that nice gold shimmer to it. And I had originally was only going to add it, here and there, and then I ended up adding like basically the entire image because more the merrier. And since it was subtle, I felt like I could get away with it. So I did that, and then after that was dry, I went in and added just some highlights with my white gel pen. And if you're ever going to use an aqua shimmer pen or any sort of like glitter brush pen, I add that first, then I add my white highlights, because if you add the white first and then add the shimmer will basically dissolve the white gel pen and you end up with a smeared mess. Ask me how I know. So I let that dry, then added just, you know, some white highlights with my gel pen just to make everything kind of pop a little bit more. So did that, and then I'm going to stamp one of the sentiments from this Fresh Bunch set using some VersaFine Honest Black ink, and I'm totally off camera when I do this because I'm just like in the zone. But I stamped it multiple times because, again, stamping on a little bit of a textured surface here, so I wanted to stamp it a couple times. And there you'll see the original one I did that I messed up off camera and spilled something all over and wrecked, so I had to redo it. And I like the brown background I had done on that one, but I really hate having to redo things. Like, just, it's like, well, it's part of like being a mom. I hate having to repeat myself. I don't like repeating things, and I don't like repainting things. So I went with the blue background the second time just for something different and to kind of break up like having to do the exact same thing over. But yeah, that's the one I had done originally, completely ruined it, had to repaint it. Yeah. But this footage is how I created just the background, which is just my white card base, heavyweight white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. So it's a top folding A2 size card. And I pulled out, this is the Brushstroke Waves stencil from Studio Katia. And I thought it kind of made almost like a wood grain sort of a texture if I used browns with it. So I am sponging Distress Oxide inks in Vintage Photo and Walnut Stain. And I just am concentrating more on the edges because you're not going to see the center. But concentrating more on the edges, and I shifted the stencil for the second color just to get more of that, you know, pattern and whatnot going. And then I just took that, well, let's say what was left on the sponge, and I'm just kind of sponging that around the edges to kind of deepen it up a bit and to give it a little bit more of that brown color. So after I've got all of that sponge and I'm kind of happy with it, I can adhere the re-watercolored that I showed in the video image to that with foam tape, which I'll get to after I'm done stamping the inside of the card. And for the inside, since I went with the blue background, I'm going to ink up this cluster image again, this time with some just tumbled glass distress ink, just a regular distress ink this time. So I'm just going to ink that up and stamp that just to give a little bit of pattern to the inside. And then I'm going to grab a second sentiment from the Fresh Bunch stamp set. And I'm going to stamp that with the black ink. So it says, "Your kindness blows me away," because it says on the outside, "Thankful for you." So it kind of ties it all together. So I got that centered, and then I'm going to stamp that with the black ink. And then once that's done, I can start finishing the outside of the card. So I adhered that watercolor panel with Simon's Big Mama foam tape. So got that adhered into place. And then for a little additional bling, because, you know, the glitter, like I keep saying, was very subtle. So for a little bit of additional bling, I had these Studio Katia gold crystals, and I kind of sprinkled those on my card front. And I'm going to adhere those into place, which is little dabs of multi-medium matte adhesive. And that's going to finish off my card. So there will be links below the video to the blog post. There'll be links to all of the supplies used with the supply list. You can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and make sure to check out this set. It is an exclusive STAMPtember collaboration set and only available while supplies last through September. And here I turn on my flashlight on my phone to kind of show that shimmer a little bit more. You can see that glitter. So anyway, check that out below if you're interested. Snap this set up while you can, because it is only available for a limited time. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you all very soon in another video. Bye!